Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. We're back. We're back after about 3 months off. It's about 2 months longer than I had anticipated. And this is episode 321. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and I'm here to bring you the latest and greatest gaming news of the week. So, thank you all for your patience. What started was we're just taking a month off for the holidays and for vacations and stuff. Turned into we all got sick, very sick. I ended up with both flu and COVID at the same time, and then lost my voice for 2 months. So, yeah, that's why there was no show. And sadly, like everything happened. Just so much stuff happened that I would have really loved to have covered, but unfortunately, it was not meant to be. So, that said, coming back at a perfect time, since we've got the Switch 2 Direct happening next week, so that'll be very exciting. But just to get back in the swing of things, I don't have a lot of topics this week. Just still trying to get back into the rhythm of researching topics and everything. But we did have a Nintendo Direct this week, so longtime fans of the show know that when there's a Direct or traditionally like an E3 type presentation or something like or BlizzCon, that tends to dominate the topics on the podcast anyway. So, yeah. Unfortunately, for those who are watching the video, I forgot to update all of the cards. So I don't have the individual graphics for each topic, but that's fine. I think we'll all survive without them. So, I think without further ado, we'll get right into our topics for this week. All right, so first up, just like the podcast, Game Informer's back. So apparently, it didn't take long for somebody to be like, we can't have Game Informer just go away. So in a letter from the editor, from the editorial team over at Game Informer, they announced that Gunzilla Games secured the rights to the magazine from GameStop, and then opened it up as its own independent company. So basically, like, it seems like they're providing the funding, but like they want it to remain an independent company to be able to do its job as a gaming magazine. So like that's cool, but also the entire staff is coming back. So it's not just the editorial team. Production's coming back. I assume, like the sales teams and basically everybody that was involved. So like that, as someone whose day job is working sort of on the production level for a daily newspaper, I'm really glad to see that the production folks and sort of the behind the scenes folks are also coming back. So this is cool. They're talking about so it will only be digital for now. They are talking about and working on a pipeline for the print product returning, as well as various perks that membership or a subscription will get you. So that's all very exciting. I don't believe it's set up yet because I tried looking into it, and there were some issues with getting an account set up. But so yeah, I wish more gaming magazines would come back. I'm still sad about Nintendo Power. I really wish Nintendo Power would come back. So, uh, yeah, that this is great news, and the fact that basically everybody, I assume the vast majority of the company will get their jobs back. So, um, yeah, glad to see it. I'm really happy to see them come back. Next up, Capcom showcased a trailer for Content Update 1 for Monster Hunter Wilds. So I believe this was previously announced, just Content Update 1 and what was coming. But they kind of gave like looks as to like a deeper dive into it. So there's new endgame hub. And this has been typical, where like you get, sort of the hub for the main game, and then when they introduce like sort of endgame content, they put a new hub for that, or like a multiplayer hub. Uh, Mizutsune is coming, so the bubble dragon, soap dragon. Arc tempered Raydao. Raydao is one of the new monsters in the game, big old lightning monster, and Zoshia, which must be the final end boss, because you'll be able to do repeatable quests or repeatable missions with Zoshia or Zoshia. And that releases next week. So this will give a little bit of a content boost for people who've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I sadly have not. I have to wait for a price drop and to also see if my computer will run it. Because I don't know if it will. Which does make me sad. Especially because the other piece of news we got was about Content Update 2 coming out this summer. Will have the flagship monster of Monster Hunter Tri, Lagiacrus, finally making his return to Monster Hunter. This has been heavily requested by the fan base. It was for World. Apparently, Lagiacrus was supposed to have been included in the game, like in very early in development, and they could just never get like the skeleton to work. So I'm very excited about that. My hope is that if there is some sale, I will be able to pick it up and run it, because it would be very nice to play against that big bad boy once again. And then our final bit, I say final bit as if it wasn't like its own dozen topics in and of itself. There was a Nintendo Direct this week, specifically for upcoming Nintendo Switch games. So nothing about the Switch 2. They made sure of that, to mention that, because that Direct is coming next week. So of note, no Silk Song, and no, there was something else that people have been waiting for. I don't remember what it is, but the big thing is no Silk Song, once again. So, however, what we did get, to get it right out of the way first, is so available now is a new news app from Nintendo. And I've been seeing some consternation about the fact that there's a separate app for this that's not rolled into like the Nintendo Switch Online app. And I think I can see the argument that this you don't need to have, you just need to have a Nintendo account. You don't need to have Nintendo Switch Online to use this app. Whereas the other one, you have to have Nintendo Switch Online to use a lot of the features. I still think if Nintendo was really in the app development game, they would have figured out a way to update like the Nintendo Switch app to include this in it, and then have, the Nintendo Switch Online features just paywalled with requiring an account. But, all in all, I don't mind having to download an extra app. It doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. And then coming next month, virtual game cards. So this will be a way. This is an opt-in feature, so it's optional, uh, where you can change the way you share digital titles. So instead of the way it currently works now, which is it's a little convoluted, um, what you do is you convert them into virtual game cards. So it gives a little icon that looks like a Switch cartridge. Um, and to transfer it to another console, I believe it has to be another console in your family group, and you do have to do a sync once to set up this sharing feature. Like you have to do like a local proximity sync. Then once you do is you go into your title, and if you want to share it, if you're done playing it on that console and you want to move it to a different console, there's like an eject feature, and that allows you to eject it, and then I presume like you download it or install it on the second console. Um, you know, I think for people who are really into this and are like very um, advanced users, I'll say, this might be more cumbersome in how it works. However, that said, I think it is a more intuitive way of doing it, because like Nintendo is not interested in pursuing the Steam model. Like they're just not, where you can download it on however many devices, but it can only be played once at a time. They're not interested in doing that. You know, that would obviously be the ideal case for digital games. But I think if you're going to implement some kind of sharing and not do that, then having something that's intuitive and at least simulate the experience of physical games, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's undeniably quirky, which is Nintendo's brand. So there's that. Admittedly, I am kind of excited for it since we have 2 Switches in our household and are actually using both now. So, this means that like digital games will be able to be shared in my household. Um, but some of the notable titles, I'm not going to talk about all of them, as is typical. I'm just going to cover the ones that really piqued my interest or I thought were noteworthy to talk about. Starting available now. Rift of the Necrodancer. So I love the Necrodancer series. Like, I think it's rhythm based takes for different genres. I think has worked out really well for them. They did a fantastic job on Cadence of Hyrule. And so this is much more Guitar Hero type of game, but doing its own spin on it. Disney Villains Cursed Cafe. This to me, it looked a lot like Potionomics. And I don't know if they took inspiration from that or what. But just like the gameplay felt like a watered down version of Potionomics. So I'm kind of interested to see what happens with that. I don't know if it's really my style of game. But it looks like a very lighthearted, casual game. So particularly for folks out there who are more interested in like the cozy game style, that might be something to look into and pick up, especially if you're a Disney fan. It's just you run a cafe where you cater to Disney villains, and occasionally you can make potions that alter the story, I guess. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see what's coming out next. Then Fantasy Life I comes out in May. I loved Fantasy Life. I didn't finish it on the DS, but I really liked the gameplay style. The only thing I noticed was that the performance in the trailer seemed pretty bad. And I'm a little nervous about that. I'm a little nervous about the performance, cuz like in theory it shouldn't, like the performance should not be that bad for the Switch. Like, and you know, they're not like hyper realistic. It's very stylized. It keeps the same art style as like the DS version. So I don't know. I don't know if it was just poorly optimized or if it's still an in development build, and so they're working out, you know, optimization issues. But um, so for those who don't know, it's an RPG where there are different classes. There are um, crafting classes, gathering classes, and adventurer classes. Um, and each one gives you different abilities to do stuff, and you can freely swap between them. And so, you know, you might swap to, you know, a chef class to cook up some food, and then swap to, you might swap to like a lumberjack class or something like that to go gather wood, to then swap to a woodcarver class to, or carpenter class to then like make stuff with that wood. Um, so it kind of very much plays into like the gatherer crafter profession system that World of Warcraft does. But like splitting everything out into its own individual classes. And like in theory, like you could go out adventuring as like a carpenter or a gatherer or something, and you'll get like a couple different little adventuring skills. But their main point where they shine is being able to like craft and gather stuff. Um, and it's intended to be sort of like a cozy ish sort of adventure a game. Um, so it was a lot of fun. The first one was a lot of fun. I'm excited for this one, and it's a very cutesy art style. Um, so yeah. Then after that, looks like Shadow Labyrinth is next up. Um, that is a Pac-Man Metroidvania that looks like it was teased with Secret Level. Um, so Metroidvanias are kind of hit or miss for me. Um, but I think especially with like the Pac-Man backing to it, I think will be pretty intriguing. Um, and it leans into like a very sort of dark, heavy metal esque sort of lore to it. Um, that I'm not so much of a big fan of these days, but you know, I know there's an audience for that. I missed Saga Frontier 2 is available now. Um, so this one I have to look more into it because I was always very interested in playing Saga Frontier growing up, and I didn't have a PlayStation, so I didn't get that chance until it got remastered uh, onto the Switch. Um, I have to look more into it because like part of what really intrigued me was like the sort of wide cast of characters and the fact that there were like 8 different stories. It's sort of the Octopath Traveler thing of like 8 different stories going on, but that like the different types of characters all learn skills differently and all interact with equipment differently. Um, so I don't. This seems to be like a much more straightforward JRPG. Um, so I don't know. I have to look more into it, but uh, it feels like if it's just a much more straightforward one, it kind of loses the appeal for me. But you know, we'll find out. There was also Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remake. I did not catch the release date for that, but those are coming. Those were also previously announced, I believe. Um, so they are coming out this year. Then after that, Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar and Gradius Origins are coming out in August. Gradius Origins, basically being like an anniversary collection, but also including a new title of I think it was Salamander 3. So that's excited for fans of the shmup series. And then Story of Seasons, I was not expecting a Story of Seasons game. I don't know if I've heard of this entry, so I don't know if it's like a port from PC. Um, but of the two, Story of Seasons seems to be faring better than Harvest Moon. But even like lately, the Story of Seasons games seem to be falling a bit flat. And I wonder if it's just like developers have been so set in their ways on these titles. I feel like if you're going to release a farming sim in 2025, or really within the past 5 years, is I feel like you have to ask yourself, like, why would somebody play this over Stardew Valley? And I feel like graphics alone are not the reason, or name alone isn't the reason. Like I feel like it's hard to top Stardew Valley at this point with just the amount of content that you get in that game. And just the quality of life features that are put into it. I tried to get, I got, I can't remember which Story Seasons game it was. I don't know if it was Friends of Mineral Town or something on Steam. And going back and playing that, I was like, wow, we've certainly come a long way in farming sim games. Yeah, just the quality of life elements were pretty lacking compared to games that are out now. And then later this year, or no specific date given, The Eternal Life of Goldman, which looks like a beautiful sort of a DuckTales style game. So excited to see more about that. Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm on the fence. Game Freak hasn't had a good track record lately. I ended up skipping the last Pokemon game. I didn't get Scarlet Violet just because of the performance issues. I was like, I don't want to deal with it, and I've got enough to do. Marvel Cosmic Invasion for side-scrolling beat 'em up fans. Tomodachi Life, that came out of nowhere. Rhythm Heaven also came out of nowhere. Those were definitely two titles that people weren't expecting and were very excited about. Witchbrook, that's what I'm excited about. Sort of cozy witch school type game. It's from Chucklefish. Chucklefish does a great job. And then the big one, folks. We finally got a look at Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And I'm very excited. It's been 84 years since they announced Metroid Prime 4. Looks like Samus will be getting psychic abilities as a result of getting pulled to this uncharted planet. And it says it focuses very much on like jungle, sort of forested type areas. I'm sure we'll see something where we venture beneath the planet's surface and we do like magma caverns and stuff like that, because that's always been, different biomes have been a feature, a staple of the Metroid series. And just a lot of different ways to interact with the environment using psychic powers. So we'll see how they handle the whole losing your equipment thing over and over again. So I'm sure we crash land and lose our equipment and have to go find it again. You know, would be really funny if at some point it's like it all gets like stolen. That would be interesting, I think. Like either stolen by space pirates or even the galactic, like if it gets repossessed by the Galactic Federation. Uh, I think would be an interesting twist instead of just it's all damaged and we have to find stuff to reactivate it or repair it. But yeah, it was really good to see footage of that. Looks good. Sorry, looks good. I have high hopes for it. And I wonder if it's going to be a dual launch title. If Metroid is going to be what Breath of the Wild was for the Switch, where it launches on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. Although I don't know, because the Switch 2 can play Switch 1 games, so I don't know if they would need to. So, and that is going to wrap things up for this week, folks. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for coming back, watching, checking this stuff out. So if you would like to see more content, our website, 8-bitadventures.com, it's currently it's being renovated right now. It is still live. I'm slowly trying to work through going back and updating the comics back catalog. It's just some back end stuff of like trying to remove WordPress plugins and everything. But it's very slow going. It's a very tedious process. But you can check that out if you want to help support this content. The best way to do that is to be on my Patreon over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Thank you to patrons for your continued support. Opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And that's it, folks. So we'll definitely see you next week for Switch 2. I'll bet probably, unless there's some other like big bombshell news, will probably just be like a Switch 2 episode for the podcast. So we'll see you then. As always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.